greatest benefits with these classes, one of the greatest benefits by taking one of these classes is that you get your credit units. So don't hesitate. Lindsay will make sure you get them. And by all means, let's start this one, which will count for 1 credit. So thank you, Lindsay, again. Okay, today we're doing a different list. Remember last month we did Cal OSHA's top 10 most cited. And once again, I want to thank you all for joining us. I see all of your beautiful faces and your wonderful names on my sidebar there. All of you people and faces and names that I know. I'm grateful to you guys. We're grateful to you. I just took some classes to renew my outreach trainer status. This is my 3rd time around. Oh my goodness. Call us up. We can set up a 10-hour or 30-hour class. You're like, why? Why would I ever do that? And submit my employees to this torturous topics. Well, as torturous as it may seem, it will get everyone to talk the same language. We're going to see today how those top 10 most cited in our nation is a totally different list from Cal OSHA's list. And some of the things that we discussed last month, you will see them maybe 1 or 2 repeat in this list. And you're going to think, well, then why would I want to know the one related to our nation? Because guess what? A lot of the citations and violations that I commonly see when I walk through your places of employment are these types of issues, the ones that are reflected in the nation's top 10 most cited. So take it from me, from the experience that you've also seen and what you have, all of your background, all of your safety background, you are going to see today that the list that you see in the nation top 10 most cited is also what you look at and you see every day at your team's field operations, at your team's manufacturing areas, at your team's hospital, healthcare. These are the things that happen everywhere. So it's very important to pay attention. So I want to talk about the top 10 most cited in our nation, review some of those difference between, maybe what's the standard that applies here in Cal OSHA, because it's written differently. So yes, we have our own state program. What does that mean? In California, we have our own OSHA. We call it Cal OSHA, right? And as much as we did copy all of the core regulations from federal standards, we have different wording, and some of the things may be stricter or even less strict, which is the case sometimes with construction. And I want you guys to be able to utilize this information, right? My whole point, the whole objective of this first Friday of the month talks is to get you guys, give you guys tools to take back to your place of employment and do practical stuff. So make it happen, make safety happen. Don't let it just sit there on a desk, a beautiful written program that some consultant wrote for you, or some sort of policy that is just well put together, but it doesn't happen, right? You could have a beautiful personal protective equipment policy put together and then no one's wearing their safety glasses. That's the reality, right? Yes or yes? Everybody, yes? Yeah. And remember that you can interrupt me and ask questions, or if you're shy and you don't want to be, because, this is recorded so we can review it later on, you can also chat with me and ask your questions or share your experience. Imagine the amount of experience that we have today in this Zoom class. The last one is analyze the risks and hazards associated with non-compliance, which is, of course, something that we discuss as we go along. So do you remember the top 10 cited that we discussed last week, which, by the way, I was so grateful to Oscar, the consultation guys, and Cal OSHA enforcement as well, for letting us have an actual tab in the Cal OSHA website to review the Cal OSHA top 10 most cited. We've never had it in the past. So this is the first year we have it. And I loved it because it made my job so much easier, right? So the first thing is the IIPP. In California, we know that if there is an injury or an illness, is because there is some failure in regards to our IIPP. There's something that is not effective. Something is not happening because the IIPP is designed to make it work. The communication between management and employee happens, boom, everybody is expressing their concerns, hazards get fixed, So it's designed that way. And many times injuries and illness happen because some portion of the IIPP is not happening, is not occurring. So the second one, not surprisingly, heat illness. Then we also saw that third top most cited is the IIPP, but in the construction side of the equation, because many times construction employers do not have a written IIPP. Then COVID, we know that COVID was just so cited because we have emergency standard. And of course, it was going to make it into the top 10 list, right? Then we have the reporting serious injuries and fatalities, which is something that we explained, went over last month, why that's so important. If you don't have protocols, that was a to-do for many of you. Lockout tagout, which is, by the way, this is one of the ones that we'll repeat in today's list. Portable fire extinguishers, goodness gracious, you know, you're not taking a look at them, visually inspecting them, making sure that they are placed where they need to be placed, distances, types, etc. Hazard communication is another one that you will see repeating in this nationwide list. Portable ladders does not make it into this nationwide list, but oh boy, fall protection makes it quite often. And then emergency equipment such as eye wash and emergency showers. And we did talk about some of those issues here. And it is a repeat type of top 10 most cited. So here's a catch, guys. And this is why I thank you all that you log into our classes first Friday of the month. If you Google top 10 most cited standards, this is what you will get. You will get the list for the fiscal year of 2022. So in our nation, this is different for 2023, okay? And this one that you will find on the website is a mixture of what you will find in general industry and construction, okay? So this is what you would take a look at. But let me give you the information that counts, 2023, right? Make it more current, make it what it is now. And the reason why you see this slide, this is straight from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration sent to us outreach trainers. So thank you, Stephanie McGilfrey and your team over there. You guys are awesome. This is the list for general industry. Most of you on this call today are within the confines of general industry because we know we have groups of regulations. That's how OSHA works, right? We have maritime, construction, general industry, right? And then we have, I said maritime, agriculture, right? So those are the four main groups. So this is why this list is only general industry. Number one top most cited for general industry, most frequently cited serious violations in general industry for the fiscal year of 2023. Machine guarding, and then it gives you the actual standard and the section O 1910-212A1. So as you can tell, the numbers of the sections, many times I tell you guys, don't worry so much about the number of the section. A lot of you are very savvy in regards to the, yes, absolutely. And I'm stopping here, David. I always give you guys copies of my slideshow because I want you to have the tools, because I put this together just for you guys so you can have it and go over it in your own time or distribute it with the people that they need to know. So machine guarding is, and the types of guarding methods is number one. So I'll go through each of these 10 top most frequently cited serious violations. So what's the big deal with guarding, guys? When I walk the walk, because I always tell you guys, make sure you do walk the walk, talk the talk, go out there in the field, visit your field workers, be with the people that are doing the manufacturing, be with the people that are doing all the common jobs that are causing injury and illness. That's why logging and tracking all those first aid injuries and all of those workers' comp, taking a look at what's happening, going out there and seeing really how they do the job is a big deal. So when you walk the walk, stop and ask workers, so how do you operate this machine? Talk to me and just observe and let them. Many times they're so proud of the work, not many times, 100% of the time. People are proud of the work they do. So in this case, the worker stands there in front of the computer station. She gives orders to the machine, and then she's going to accommodate a part that goes inside this mechanism that is going to actually press down and test a part, which is the product being produced, right? So during this testing process, the employee is able, and I'm observing all of this and just making notes. She's able to open that door, which, by the way, I'm also looking at that door, and it seems of plexiglass material. Plexiglass material is not going to resist any type of breakage if there's some sort of if the part breaks and I want to say not explodes, but I'm looking for another word. I'm sorry. My English is acting up. It's early in the morning. So if it breaks and it hits the door, that plexiglass is not going to stop it from also causing damage to the door and maybe actually cause damage to the operator. And what if the operator is opening that door at that moment when the breakage happens, right? Could she be injured by this particular situation? And the answer is yes. And so I asked her, when you open the door, is the motion stopping? Is the machine stopping? She said, no, the motion is very slow, right? So because it's squeezing and pressing at such slow rate, there's no problem. I can go and make adjustments while it's happening. Well, we all get used to how our machines work. And so you need to really just make notes, take it in slowly, and think about what are the actual requirements for machine guarding. And you can find them in section 4184. That's kind of like the beginners, if there's grinding, shearing, punching, pressing, squeezing, any of these motions going on in which your employee comes within the danger zone, which is exactly what I am explaining right now, then you have to guard it at the point of operation. And then that's when you look into the types of guards, which is the actual top 10 most cited, the types of guarding, which are not meeting the requirements. There's an actual list of requirements, right? Because you can guard by distance, meaning, the actual point of operation is farther from the employee. He will never be hurt. There's also devices that can be installed, like presence senses or light curtains. You can also, there's many types, right? But the first thing here, in my experience, what I see when I walk your floors is that we buy machinery and equipment from other parts of the world many times. And these machines are designed according to their regulations. Also, they're designed according to the size of their people, right? So in this case, a lot of the machine equipment that I was finding in this particular place of employment was German machinery. And now we have a lot of smaller people. Like I'm small, I'm Hispanic. And if you have a full crew of, let's say, Filipino people, Hispanic people, which genetically we're smaller, you're going to have some ergonomic issues. And you're also going to have some issues, like in this case where I found out that the door is just a regular door, plexiglass, is not interlocked. It's not an interlock gate. So it doesn't stop the motion that the machine is performing. And it does expose the worker to the danger zone as the motion is happening. So these are the things that you got to make notes. And remember, this is the big deal with guarding. Anything that you change or anything that you make, if you design a new guard for any piece of equipment that you've already gotten, you cannot do it just because you love doing these wonderful, innovative things unless you get approval from manufacturers. You got to go back to the manufacturer and say, this is what we're thinking of adding. You have to go back and forth with them and get a letter of approval. That's a huge deal in this regard, okay? And other issues of guarding when that I see also that may not relate to that top 10 most cited, but that I see commonly is a lot of these guards or covers, because a cover is also a guard. Many times they're left open, exposing the worker to either motions or even electrical live parts. So keep an eye out and make sure that during your inspections, you are documenting this and you're correcting it, because that's why the IIPP, the Injury and Illness Prevention Program, says, how do you find hazards and how do you correct them? And make sure you have a way of documenting how you're correcting these hazards, all right? So this is great. Thank you, David. Of course, I'm very excited that you're here, and then everybody else is saying hello. When I stop and you hear me kind of blabbing, is because I'm looking at the chat. I'm making sure that I answer everyone's questions. Okay, so that's the thing with this slide. For my next slide, I think my computer is freezing here. Yeah, okay. Let me make my computer a little colder. Hold on. Maybe I have my heater on too high. That happens because it's been raining. By the way, if you are part of my email list, I sent yesterday a newsletter I put together on driving in the rain. I thought it was particularly important right now that we are out there driving in the rain. So if you did not receive it, please make sure that you send me your email so I can put you on my list as well. So other issues that I've seen too, as you stand and look at your pieces of machinery and equipment, a lot of us use barriers to prevent workers from getting close to moving parts. In this case, I am showing pictures of conveyor belts or all those gears that are pulling maybe parts or product into an oven or into some other part of the machine that is guarded. And because you see the guards in place, you just go ahead and say, you know what, so long as we don't get close to this moving area, although it's going slow, I'm just going to put this yellow chain. Okay. So the problem with these yellow chains is that, and you can see it in the picture, employees move these stanchions. They move them according to whatever space they need around that machine, right? And they get in there. And so the actual space that you went ahead and delineated with your yellow chain is now not a bulletproof type of issue here. And so workers come in and they may set up a table with tools and they do some tooling or some activities very near the machine where if they were to trip, as you see this cord here, that could cause an issue because a worker was standing right there using those tools. If he trips, could he hit himself? Could he fall into the moving parts? Although they're going slow, I mean, if no one is around, is that worker going to be in danger? Is that worker going to be exposed to being drawn into the mechanism of the machine? So think about all of these issues. They're part of, and in the previous slide, I visited that issue of what is required and a clear example of when guarding is ineffective, such as the door that is not an interlock gate, right? But in this second slide, what I'm sharing with you is other issues around machinery and equipment. Whenever there's motion that you may think, well, the machine already came with its own guard, so I don't need to do anything. Well, think about where are your employees? How are they moving around that machine? And is there a danger of tools being dropped into mechanisms or even the worker tripping and falling into parts of the machine or the mechanism of the machine? So do you need to guard that area? Do you need to have some of these access zones or restricted areas around machinery and equipment? The next one that we have is hazard communication, and pay attention because there's another one here that relates to the same topic. Number 3, hazard communication. Again, yes, but the difference is that the top 10 most cited, the second one is about a written program, meaning employers nationwide do not have an actual policy on how they handle chemicals at the work site, because that's what hazard communication is all about. And I got to tell you, I think that the term hazard communication is a little misleading, but this particular regulation is about how you handle chemicals at the workplace, right? Hazard communication. If you don't have a written policy, you do not have a way to say, this is how we are doing safety related to handling of chemicals. And then the second most cited, which is made it in the list and is it occupies place number 3, is information and training. You're going to see why that is problematic. So let me show you first. You have to have a written program. And in California, there is a whole guide on how to write your own program. But there's also a sample program. A lot of you use consultants to do your, and I'm a consultant, so it's not like I'm shooting myself in the foot. I use the sample programs and I help you put your policies together and I guide you through this step. But what is important here is, what are you using? There's nothing better than using the actual Cal OSHA sample programs because they put them together for you. Just make sure you're using the latest, the newest. And if not, just pick up the phone and call Cal OSHA consultation and they'll send you an email with the program. And the actual, let me share that program if I can share it with you guys. It's going to be right here. I'm not able to share yet, so give me a second. But on that new program, what I usually do is I let you leave the Cal OSHA sign, the little seal on it. And it even says, you know, the publication number, it has a link to the regulation, and it also does the it tells you when was the last time that sample program was updated. And then for Cal OSHA sample programs usually have red lettering. And in the red lettering, that's where I put some of the comments and observations also for you, because you know, you have to customize this plan. So in the case of a sample hazard communication program, there is a space in the sample program for you to create your own inventory. You have to have an updated inventory. And this is where you can think about, and this is some of the things that I tell my clients is, do not allow for workers to bring their own chemicals to the work site, right? Because you have to have them as part of the inventory, and it becomes nightmarish. So have a way, an actual protocol, an actual policy on how you do purchasing, and then who is obtaining those safety data sheets, and put a person in charge of obtaining those data sheets. If you don't have anyone in charge of obtaining those safety data sheets, it's no good. Lindsay, what is it that you guys are seeing on your screen, please?
We don't see anything. We just see the boxes of everyone. We don't see a presentation.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. I'm having trouble. I cannot do anything whatsoever. Like nothing. I cannot.
Okay. Do you want to leave and come back in?
Yeah.
We'll wait a couple minutes.
I'm so sorry about that, but I am not having success here. So
Okay, no worries. We can wait.
Give us one moment, everyone. Well, I'll take this moment to thank all of you for joining and welcoming all of our new participants who haven't been here with us for these sessions. Welcome. It's on the first Friday of every month, so we hope to see you in our future classes.
Lindsay, are we able to enroll for the whole series, or do we have to do it every month?
Yeah, it'll be a new link every month. So we do ask everyone to go on our website and register each month.
I'm
if
back. Wonderful people. Sorry, go ahead and finish. Just let me share my screen, Lindsay, please.
No, you're fine. Yeah, we try to update the link a couple days after each session. So even if we don't have the topic ready, you can go ahead and register for the next month on our website.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I just wanted to show you that sample program. So I'm going to share it with you guys. Hold on here. It is the sample hazard communication. So you have an idea how it looks like. Can you guys raise your hands if you've ever seen this program? Have you seen this? January 2020 is the latest of for this hazard communication program. And once again, thank you, Roxanne. Thank you very much for sharing with us. And so you have the actual components that are required in the regulation already plugged into this program for you. Do you see? This is a gem. This is truly a gem. And then you just can go one by one and customizing and making sure that it happens for you. A lot of red lettering, which is, I said, the part that needs to be changed to fit your needs, to fit whatever you're doing at your facility. Okay, so employee information and training. That's the second portion of the regulation that is being featured in the top 10 most cited in our nation. Why? And the reason is because employees lack training. And so I want to make sure that I give you the tools to go back and do the best training that is OSHA compliant and that is according to the regulation. What is it that this program should contain? Well, the actual training requirements start with asking what is the company's name, what is the company hazard communication program. You put your name there. Let's say what is Widgets Inc. hazard communication program. What is it? You have to explain it to the worker. What is it? That's how they get to know that HAZCOM means handling chemicals safely. Number two, what are the tasks in your work area where hazardous substances are present? So whenever you have a crew or a group of people, you're able to tell them in this particular department, the actual hazards we deal with in this regard are the chemicals that are hazardous substances in your place are the dust that we produce when we are, working with wood or with metal, the dust that we are being exposed to whenever we handle this material to make plastics or to pour it into our molding machine. You need to make sure that you go over these things with the employee. This is particularly what is being cited, that your training program for hazard communication is not up to par, is not up to the regulation. Number three, where can you find the written hazard communication program and the safety data sheets? So the employee has to show that he is able to find a safety data sheet and that he is able to see the components of that safety data sheet that are important to him, such as number four, right? Element number four, a safety data sheet, is all about first aid. Who doesn't want to know what to do if you get splashed with a chemical, right? They want to know. Next, how do you detect the presence or release of hazardous substances in the work area? So now that they have a list of the things to watch out for, dust, any other chemicals that they're exposed to, because you're not only talking about paints, solvents, or anything that they work with, you're also talking about the byproduct of the processes at the area where they're at that may represent an issue of exposure. For example, I was visiting one of your facilities and one of the employees had a half mask respirator next to his station, and I asked him, those are huge red flags for me when I see them, especially if they're sitting out there, I said, hey, so what's going on? Tell me, why do you use this? And he goes, oh, that's because when I operate this machine, at the end of the day, I always go home feeling like I have the residue of the spraying of what I'm doing with this machine. Oh, that should raise like a ton of red flags for you because you're the inspector. You're the one doing the walkthrough. You make your notes and you find out what is it that he's been exposed to. What is the byproduct as he's operating this machine? What are these machines producing? It could be a gas, it could be a mist, it could be a fume, right? What type of chemical is he being exposed to? Because then we need to do hierarchy of controls, right? We don't immediately go and provide him with a respirator. That would be the wrong way to do safety. We go ahead and start thinking, how can we solve this? How can we completely eliminate the exposure to this byproduct of our manufacturing process or whatever you're doing, right? That's how you go about talking to these workers. How do you detect the presence of a release of any of these dust, mist, fumes, chemicals, leaks? How does it smell? How would it look like? What about the piping system around your walls, right? Would it be a hissing sound? Would it be some sort of vapor cloud? That. Number five, how do you protect yourself from the physical health hazards of this chemicals at work? So now you're going to talk about how to clean up small spills, right? And if you have given them training for hazmat and these people are qualified to not just contain but clean up and do cleanup operations, this is part of that, right? And of course that triggers that other extensive training. But look at this, if you do this training according to the regulation, you're going to be compliant. It's going to trigger some of the other requirements, such as depending how they have to protect themselves. Many times it's just evacuating, right? If they detect a spill and they applied containment procedures and then just evacuate, boom, you did it. But all of this, because you did it the right way, you're compliant and you are protecting workers from being injured. And then last but not least, how do you obtain and use information contained in the hazard communication, such as labels? How do you label everything at the workplace? And this is why the previous slide, I put this is so common when you walk through your facility or when you are around the workstations for your employees, you see a ton of chemicals that are unlabeled. And this is because either they use it in a smaller container or they use some spray bottle to pour, alcohol, to do a mixture of something, or for solvents, or for just whatever they're using right next to their station, and they don't label them. That is all part of what you're training and educating. You're giving them the tools to say, this is how we do it at our place of employment. And one of those things that is super important that is being violated within this training requirements is, how do we communicate with labels? So labels are a huge portion of the hazard communication program. And the safety data sheets, can they show that they can obtain them, read them, understand them? Just the basics. They don't need to be, they don't need to have some degree as chemical engineers, because trust me, these safety data sheets are written in a way that you need a degree. But as a safety person here today on this call, you need to have the ability to transmit to your workers, no matter who they are, no matter if he's the janitor, no matter if he's the one that picks up the trash every day outside your office. He needs to know, where does he find information in the language that he speaks about that cleaner, about that Pine-Sol, about that Fabuloso, right? So we're talking about all the chemicals they use and their rights within the regulation, which include the right to report any concerns without fear of reprisal. Okay, so we've done the first three. We move on to respirators, which is the next one. What are the issues here? Medical evaluation. So the top 10 most cited as serious violation is, we are not providing medical evaluations. Okay, what does this mean? If I get a respirator, if I give them a respirator, I need to send them to the doctor? Well, with respiratory protection, we have a huge deal here. Number one, why would they ever need a respirator? Why? What are they being exposed to? Or what does the employee perceive he's being exposed to, that he went and got himself a mask at Home Depot? And once again, you don't do safety by providing them with a bubble to work inside of that bubble and not get hurt. You do safety by thinking, how can we eliminate these hazards first? And so with that, we eliminate the need to provide with a respirator, right? So that's how it's safety works. Yes, that's me. That's how I think. So, and by the way, that's by NIOSH put together that hierarchy of controls, and that's how we do safety. So I walk your floors, and then I see that on the wall, you have some half masks and some equipment there that it is for half masks. This is not the way you store them, because anything that has to do with respiratory protection has to be cleaned and put away in a way that the cartridges are not exposed to the regular environment, right? Because they're going to get clogged faster than they should if you have a schedule to change out filters. So it triggers that question. If I see this immediately, okay, so what is it that the workers are being exposed to, right? And then the next thing is, how can we get rid of that hazard? So I'm not even going to think respirators unless I know what's the situation here. And in this case is some sort of dust. Okay, so now I look at the type of dust, the specific type of dust that my employees are being exposed to. And then okay, so what we need is, for these 12 workers that are being exposed to, we need to set up an area where we set up an actual exhaust system, or an actual dust collector. And once this is an engineering control. So if you can't get rid of the dust completely and 100% by eliminating that portion of your process, then how can we eliminate the dust by way of engineering controls? Meaning a machine, something in the environment that we can control that exposure. Okay, maybe a dust collector, a dust extractor, a hood, anything that gets you to think, get rid of the problem so you don't have to put them on a respirator. If you do this and the problem still persists, then you're going to have to put together this respiratory protection program in place, which requires that you provide a medical evaluation to each of the potential wearers of a respirator. So respirators range in model, type, sizes, etc. But once you give them a N95, and I know that all of you on this call know what an N95 looks like, because during the pandemic, they were so widely known. And so those are the ones that it's a filtering piece, because it's made with filtering material, right? and they have the two little straps, but there's a way to put them on and take them off effectively. And if you are making this a mandatory, a requirement in your place of employment, you must provide medical evaluation. I don't care if it's the simple N95 type of respirator. But if you are providing it on a voluntary basis, you do not need to go through the entire medical evaluation situation. Okay, why? Because the reason you are allowing them to wear it is because they're saying, hey, you know what? I sweep the floors. There's some dust here in this area. I'd like to have this mask. All right, so you're not requiring it because you know that the actual agent they're complaining about is not something that is harmful, right? So you have to do your homework. You cannot just say, that doesn't hurt anyone. Come on. No, you have to do due diligence. What is it that the employees complain about? And you shouldn't wait for a complaint. You should be inspecting your areas. You should be doing your scheduled inspections so that you detect those things even before they bring it up to you. But the key here thing is, if it's on a voluntary basis, you don't require to do the medical evaluation. But anything above and beyond a half mask, the moment they go and get something like what's on your screen, you have to have a respiratory protection program in place right alongside with a medical evaluation. So if it's on a voluntary basis, all you have to do is provide them with Appendix D of the regulation, which is basically instructions on how to wear this little N95, which is the only one you are allowed to provide on a voluntary basis. And if you are going to require an N95 or anything different from this, which is a respirator or consider a respirator, you must provide medical evaluation, which is a questionnaire that an actual doctor will receive, review, and then approve the wearer. But there may be some things in that medical evaluation that the doctor may deem an issue that necessitates further evaluation, and they will schedule an appointment for that particular employee. So as you see, it's not as simple as it seems, and that's the reason why it made it to the top 5 most cited in our nation. Very common, by the way, because these pictures are mine. I'm taking them as I go and visit your sites. So what does that mean? It means these are issues that we see all the time in your facilities. And maybe some of you are thinking, oh, yeah, I've seen that type of respirator hanging around over there. I see 2-3 workers wear it and they bought it on their own. So huge issues, huge red flags. Please make sure you get a handle on those things. We talked extensively last month about lockout tagout. But the top 10 most cited in our nation, the particular subsection of the standard that is most cited has to do with the procedures. And you may be asking, what does that mean? Well, in California, we require that each of those machines, and nationwide, each of those machines that require lockout tagout procedures has a different written procedure for it. So they must be developed, documented in writing, and anytime you have to do cleaning, repairing, servicing, setting up, adjusting machinery and equipment, that you develop this step-by-step procedures, right? So it has to be separate. There's an exception if the machines are so similar in nature that following each of the steps basically is identical. And then of course you could have one same procedure for those 2 machines, even if the model is different. So you just have to make sure that as you go into the development of these procedures, that truly the steps did not change. So what does that mean? That you have to do an analysis for each of the machines because they're a different model, but they're almost identical. For some reason, the manufacturer just did a different model. It could be upgraded in some sort of way or another. And if it will interfere with how you lock out and tag out that machine, then it must have a separate procedure. Okay. And I know I have an actual sample for that, but one of the tools that I find helps you guys the most is the, I'm going to share with you this portion of, no, that's for, well, this is evacuation, but no, lockout tagout has a wonderful e-tool. I know what I was trying to share. I was trying to share this. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to share with you guys. So there is a Cal OSHA document that will help you give you some of the sample procedures. How does it look like? And now I have it on your screen. Let me hide this and then just kind of go over. This was put by the consultation Cal OSHA. This is by Mr. Ruben Garza, this is his material. He put it together regarding lockout tagout, right? And then he went ahead and added some of those tools and samples, and I really like it. So I can send you this particular PDF file from his presentation. And this is probably a 2015, I think, presentation. So he starts with an equipment audit where he's going to audit what type of energy we're trying to isolate, right? Because that's the whole core of the lockout tagout. When machinery or equipment that you need to unjam or you need to service or set it up, it will represent the issue of someone being exposed to the machine all of a sudden releasing either mechanical energy or something with gravity that will fall, or electrical, because a lot of us think that is just electricity that needs to be isolated. Well, you need to make an audit and find out how many sources of energy your pieces of equipment have in order for you to develop a procedure. So I like that he starts with that, and then he goes into, and he lists everything: hydraulic, pneumatic, my English is acting up, guys. I can't talk anymore. It's almost 12. That must be it. Chemical, thermal, other hazardous. And then he gives you a sample, right? So he's got to say the purpose of the lockout tagout, the responsible, who's responsible, the preparation, and the sequence. So you have to have the sequence to lock out the machine. 1, 2, 3. It's a procedure. You must have that procedure written out with detail, right? In a way that it'll work for that person that is authorized, another term that is commonly used, authorized to actually do the lockout tagout. Then how do you restore the equipment to service, procedure involving more than one person, rules for using the lockout tagout, and then it gives you an example of how this should look like. And this makes a lot of sense, because remember, the reason why this is making it to the top 10 most cited nationwide is because we failed to put and identify the procedure with a specific machine. So I love this sample because it goes into equipment number 06001, whatever it is, right? Equipment name, belt transfer on rolls table, blah, blah, blah. So you gotta clearly identify the procedure for which machine, and then just have them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I can send you this as well if you want to have a copy of it, because this one is public domain. Let me keep going with the PowerPoint. All right, so now my computer is working fine. I don't know, I think something happened really truly with the heat, because I didn't want to put a lot of sweaters today. Okay, the next one that made it to our list, power industrial trucks, aka anything that has to do with forklifts or machinery and equipment that your operators are being trained to use to handle material, right? So this is material handling. There's a training program that it's a 2-part training. It actually is kind of like what we did in school, theory and practice. Well, this is why we're being cited, because we might explain some things about the forklift and we're not doing it in a classroom setting where employees are getting the full scoop of what it is to drive this forklift and this Tourette truck and this pallet jack. And because you have to give them training for each of the pieces of equipment that they're going to use that are considered power industrial trucks. There's a whole classification of them, right? Some of them in the construction industry are heavy for earth moving, right, equipment. And those are part of the power industrial truck regulation. And the training is a 2-part training, classroom and hands-on or practical, right? And so there it is. Why is it making it to the top 10 most cited? Because we lack proof of training. And so in that documentation, you have to document. And by the way, a lot of us today in this call believe that you have to hire someone to do your forklift training. There's nothing better than making sure that someone in your facility takes control of this and owns it. And so now this person develops your training program. And with a class that he takes, he becomes the actual trainer. So he should take a train the trainer class for power industrial trucks. And then he would be able to keep accurate records and proof of training, because the hands-on evaluation needs to be done every 3 years. But the classroom, if they've already covered what they need to cover, does not need to be done every 3 years, just as long as he keeps track of when was their initial training, and then every 3 years they're getting a hands-on visual evaluation of how they drive these pieces of equipment. So another of the issues that I see commonly there is the speed and the blockage of aisles and areas where equipment needs to be driven. So that's here in California, commonly cited, as you can see in my picture there. Every time you have obstructions in your aisles where forklifts are going, you will be cited. And also the speed. Make sure that these things are not being driven at a higher speed than if you could follow them walking. So walking speed. It was scary to see in one of my visits how a Tourette truck operator was taking a turn, and because he was driving so fast, the Tourette truck almost tilted, right? So a lot of issues with that, especially if you allow pedestrians in the same area or warehouse. Very cool. There's an e-tool, and that's the one that I was showing you guys in OSHA.gov. And why is it that I use some of these tools? Because I think OSHA, federal OSHA, has developed, because they have the resources to develop great e-tools. And I love the one powered industrial trucks. So if you're going to have your in-house trainer, which I highly recommend, why continue to pay someone every 3 years to come and do your forklift recertification? Just make it in-house, make sure that you have a trainer, someone in charge of your program. And this is a very wonderful tool. It goes through all of the hazards, and it will allow you to have the tools and the materials to put together your 2-part training program for forklifts. Any questions until now? Oh, yes, I do have some questions. So hold on. Take a look at that. Pallet jacks. Great question, Marlene. If they're manual pallet jacks, you do not have to have training under this type of regulation. So not as complex, not a 2-part training. There is no requirement for you to have classroom and hands-on for manual pallet jacks. For anything that is not manual, yes, it's included in your power industrial truck program, all right? And you do have to have the classroom and the hands-on, because anything that is manual is just a simple piece of equipment that does, by the way, it does require some training, right? So you should go over the hazards. What, for example, with manual pallet jacks, I do talk about, you gotta wear safety boots, steel toe, because you don't want to wear the regular cloth tennis shoes because you're going to get hurt. You got forks and you're moving material. So there are some hazards associated with manual pallet jacks. Training is required for those, but not as extensive as with everything else beyond a manual pallet jack. So great question, Marlene. The next slide that I have for you, I love your questions, guys. They're always just they take everything and make it practical, which is what we want. Exit routes. So that's number 7. What can I tell you, right? Free, unobstructed. It keeps making it to the top 10 most cited. Can you believe this? Okay, so if there's an earthquake, if there's an emergency and people need to evacuate, but you have trash cans and lift tables and copier machines and you name it right next to the exit, how are they going to get out of the building? So a lot of the times you go, well, but you have the loading docks and you have the roll-up doors always up, and so people can exit that way. Listen, if it's got a sign on top and it says it's an exit, it needs to be free and unobstructed. That's all you need to know, right? So make sure that they're always 28 inches wide, free from any obstructions and any obstacles. That's part of the requirement. There's clear floor space, 36 inches all around that door. And also think, what are you putting next to your exit doors? In this case, I put an example of an exit door, and there is storage of compressed gases next to it. So I don't need to tell you why that's all wrong, but it is wrong, because anything like flammable liquids, compressed gases, that if there's a fire, represent an issue of even further, it's worse, right? Why would I want to go through that exit when that thing can explode or become a rocket just because it got overheated with the fire going on in the building? Completely part of violation to OSHA standards. And as we go on with our list, remember that we have medical services first aid, which we talked about last month, electrical, proper installation and use of equipment. And then the last one is hazard communications, safety data sheets readily accessible, which I already talked about. But here we go. Again, some other pictures from my walks. This didn't even work. It's so old. It's next to a sink and it doesn't work. So by law, remember we talked about that the regulation says that you have to have eye wash and shower facilities within 10-second travel where the hazardous substance or toxic substance or corrosive substance is being used or utilized, right? So 10-second travel and you're not going to sprint to it. You can't see or you're burning. It's hurting you. So you're going to 10 seconds, you got to get to that place, right? And you're kind of going a little bit helping someone who can't see to get to it. 10-second travel. So the most common mistakes I see out there is either not functioning, not present, not there, obstructed. So look at that second picture. You have a drum of some flammable liquid next to it, and then a cart and a ladder. Ladders need to be appropriately stored when not in use. So this is all wrong. You cannot have that happening. Clean up your places of employment. Remember the things that we talk about and get your guys, your machine shop guys, the people that are leaving these things in front of your eye wash stations and emergency showers, send them the link for these videos, for these webinars, so that they hear us out and they understand the reasoning behind it. It's all about the safety of the worker. And of course, the last picture is not being tested. When a eye wash is not being tested, of course, there is no weekly bump test that anyone is doing. So dirt, it's caked on the actual eye wash station. So for the electrical, we do things such as cutting the third prong on an extension cord. So that's part of using equipment the wrong way, and that's what made it to the top 10 most cited. Another thing is installation and use of equipment. So some pictures here of things that I see very, very commonly, junction boxes missing, covers, or the knockout missing in the top picture over there, or this breaker box with a lot of openings. And so what happens is there's a lot of exposure to those live parts. Those covers, those black coverings in your breaker box are there for a reason, because they prevent the employee from coming in contact with it. Also, animals may crawl in, and now you have an issue of electrical failure, etc. So make sure that once you have equipment that is being installed, that it is appropriately installed and the equipment is also being used appropriately. One of the most common things that I see out there with extension cords is the daisy chaining of extension cords, one to another to make it to your break room, for example. And because it's a break room and you desperately need to use your microwave every single day for lunch, it's going to stay there forever. So that's a permanent installation, right? So it shouldn't have a soft cord connected to another extension cord connected to one of those power surge bars. So another of the issues that I see also often, the overloading of outlets. So if you need more outlets, have your electrician install more outlets. So yes, it's more costly, but then you're not violating one of the top 10 most cited serious violations in the nation. And these are my pictures, so I see them, except the one in the middle, which comes from the guide in Galosha, but I couldn't find mine. I have like a whole file on people that cut the third prong on those cords. And so now you're not grounded, and shock can happen more easily, especially if you use that for tools, etc., out in the field. So we talked about this one, make sure they know how to use it. And if you're doing digital or electronic access, that people know how to use it, right? For those of you in construction, I added that portion in my slides, but there's not enough time to explain everything. There's a whole other list of most frequently cited serious violations in construction. And it's fall protection, eye and face protection. And I started this talk today saying things such as, you may require everyone to wear safety glasses, for example, while they are at the field. But the truth is they're not using them, especially those people that wear prescription glasses. For sure, 100% of all of the time when I'm out there, few workers that have prescription glasses actually wear goggles on top. And few of them also set aside some budget to buy themselves safety glasses that are prescription glasses as well. So those are some of the issues that you need to look at, because it's the top two most cited in the nation. Fall protection for residential construction, my best input for those of you, because then we have ladders, and then number 4, we have again fall protection. Look into Cal OSHA's fall protection in construction fact sheet. It's a beautiful sheet. It'll give you the trigger heights and all of the links to the standards that apply. For example, with aerial devices, 3648, 3642 for working on elevated platforms. By the way, for those of you with aerial lifts, scissor lifts, etc., there's a new term in town, and it's called MUPS. Oh my gosh. What were they eating when they thought about this term? I don't know. But ANSI came out with new requirements for the manufacturers of aerial devices or any of those scissor lifts, elevated platforms, basically, that you guys are using to get the jobs done. And if you're using new equipment, what you're required to do is do training according to whatever that equipment is bringing that is new, okay? So they're called MUPS now, mobile elevated working platforms, MUPS, all right? So trigger heights for whenever you are on scaffolding, etc., different from the nation to us. For example, if you're in scaffold, fall protection is not required until you hit that 10-foot mark. For us, it's 7.5 feet. So there are some things there that change from nation standards to ours. Here is the one that I was telling you. If you have workers not wearing their safety glasses at a construction job site, I go bananas. I go back with you and I say, okay, where's your personal protective equipment policy? I don't have one. Okay, so in California, we have a requirement to certify that an assessment was made to actually provide PPE. We list the personal protective equipment, and then for things such as safety glasses, especially in construction, that has to be something that is worn at all times when you're out there in the field. I don't care if the other trades are not doing it or if the site is flexible in that regard. I want my workers, I want the employers that I work with to use them. All right, so I'm going to leave you with the next thoughts. Portable ladders, if you're in construction, you're required to, because the one that is being cited is that you are not providing with that extension, when you use an extension ladder, of 3 feet right above the landing. By the way, there's so many accessories out there. Last month, we talked about many different types of accessories that are available to you guys. This one is $170, and it's going to save you from a citation from OSHA and a very bad injury that could probably be fatal, because falls from ladders are the second leading cause of death in construction. So why are still we having employees that are cited for this? I just don't get it. That's just the truth. All right. Awesome, you guys. 12 o'clock. I know you guys have to go. This basically is for construction, and I know a lot of you do not fall within that. And what I did is I put it out there for you and a link for the actual Cal OSHA top 10 most cited. So guys, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I wanted to give you the top 10 most cited in the nation, kind of comparing to what we have in California and bring it to something practical. I'll see you next month. Remember, first Friday of the month, and don't forget to check our website to see what other classes we have coming up for safety. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Alba.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll see everyone next month. Please fill out the evaluations that will be going out right after this, and we'll see everyone next month.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon. Send your questions. Remember, we receive emails. You can chat with me or whatever you need, and we will answer those questions. So I see in the chat a lot of you guys. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Linz. Bye.